Welcome to Influential Entrepreneurs, bringing you interviews with elite business leaders and experts, sharing tips and strategies for elevating your business to the next level. Here's your host, Mike Saunders.
Hello and welcome to this episode of Influential Entrepreneurs. This is Mike Saunders, the Authority Positioning Coach, and today we're privileged to have with us J Webb, who is the CEO of LeaderLogic. Nick, welcome to the program.
Thanks so much. I appreciate it.
Hey, so I love when I see people's bio that says as one of the world's leading innovation strategists and futurists. So I love that because innovation is so key, and I teach marketing strategy for several schools, and innovation is such a huge topic because people feel like sometimes innovation is something brand spanking new, but I would love to talk to you also about how innovation can be just iterations on things that are existing, but kind of breathing new life into it. But before we get to that, give us a little background on yourself and then what led you to LeaderLogic and who do you serve?
Sure, I appreciate it. Well, I've been in the innovation space for going on 40 years now. I started out as a medical technologist inventing products for healthcare. One of my patents is one of the world's smallest microsilicone implants for ocular surface disease. I've invented one of the first wearable technologies. Even today, I'm filing, a patent or two every week. I currently have over 40 patents, so I have a very busy innovation practice myself. In my company, LeaderLogic, we work with some of the top brands in the world to help them improve their innovation prowess. I also serve as the Chief Innovation Officer at Western U, which is the most comprehensive medical school in the country, where I also work as an adjunct professor. And I speak at about 70 events worldwide on future trends and how innovation is driving some of the best brands in the world.
And then we didn't even get to when do you sleep, have a little bit of fun, spend time with the family, because it sounds like that is 48 hours per day.
Right.
Yeah,
Well,
awesome.
the key is doing this, and so making a living is easy. The hard part is making a life, right? And so the key is doing this in a way that you fold it all in. I have 4 kids. They've traveled the world with me, and actually I think I have more leisure time with my family than most people that are working a 9 to 5.
And that's because you've done that by design, and that's a whole other topic. But I tip my hat to that because with 4 kids, I understand the exact same thing. In my life, you've got to carve out the non-negotiables. But let's get back to your innovation, your book, Innovation Mandate. Are you suggesting that innovation is required for organizations to succeed, or does that just kind of take them to the next level? Because I almost feel like there's certain things that organizations must do to succeed, but then there's these top things that if you do these, it sets you on a new plane. It really establishes your competitive advantage. Because there's so many things that even in the innovation world that people would go, oh yeah, we innovate, we do X, Y, Z, but that's what everybody else does that innovate. So what is it about innovation that would really help not only succeeding, but then establishing themselves as a market leader?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, when I wrote my best-selling book, What Customers Crave, that came out a couple of years ago, I was fascinated that some of the best organizations in the world were committing to customer experience innovation as a way to drive sustainable growth and profit. And then I began to realize that it was much bigger than that. And so I started researching about 3 years ago at the same time of building out What Customers Crave. One of the best, we hear the term innovation, but what does it really mean on practical terms? And one of the ways to look at it is that, when a company starts, they're very, very focused on the customer. And that drives a lot of growth because when we're customer focused, we grow. But then they realize that, we have to compete favorably against other people who are focusing on their customer. So they then build out innovation. And that works too, and they start to have that next wave of growth. Then they realize that, we need to build operations around customers and innovation, and that's where things get a little sketchy. They start to get hyper-operational. It's all about HR. It's all about systems. It's all about risk mitigation. And then the world outside of them is continuing to focus on customer innovation, and they fail. And we call this the disruption death dive, right? Mm. And so when you think about it, when we hear the term disruption basically says that things are changing much faster than they ever have before in terms of what customers expect, in terms of what technologies are providing, in terms of what new economic models are delivering. So because it's changing big and fast, organizations that are committed to sameness are failing. So what we have to do now is we have to institutionalize getting back to a customer-centric view of innovation where we're inventing bigger, better things much faster so that we can square up with the differentness that's happening in the marketplace today.
That's a really big point, and as you were making that comment, it made me think of something that I'm sure you've seen organizations that feel like, oh man, if we got to innovate, okay team, what ideas do you have to innovate? And they, in a sense, kind of feel like they high five because they spend a 6-month time frame thinking about some innovation in their organization, and they check the box, and then now, cool, we innovated, what? And then their competitors are innovating at a faster pace and more consistently. So what do you say to an organization that feels like, yeah, we understand what innovation is and there's some areas we can innovate in, but boy, that is the starting blocks. You need to have that drive to consistently innovate and have a team that is focused on that 100% so that you're the one driving in the market and not reacting.
Absolutely. Well, the first problem as I see there is that the overwhelming majority of organizations really see innovation as a bumper sticker or a slogan. Yeah. I was recently at a trade show, and every tagline, XYZ corporations, leaders in innovation, setting a new whatever innovation, right? And then you look at their products, and you look at the group working there, and you listen to their dialogue. They are not exactly innovative. So the biggest reason why innovation doesn't really work is that at the end of the day, the organization really never committed to it. And part of that has to do with the fact that they've never defined it. It was interesting. I interviewed literally thousands of innovation experts and CEOs during the research of the innovation mandate. And I found that the overwhelming majority of these organizations didn't even have an actionable definition of innovation that would ever really get them to innovation. And so I finally came up with an aggregated definition of what innovation really is. And when you look at innovation from a simple and deployable definition perspective, it's new value that serves your organization and your organization's mission and customer. Yeah. So there's really 4 elements to innovation. It's got to be new, not necessarily new to the universe, but new to your enterprise or maybe new to your industry. It has to be valuable, and of course value is in a range. I mean, there is incremental value and there's breakthrough value and there's disruptive value. How big is this new innovation? And then if it doesn't serve your organization, it's not sustainable. Yeah. And if it doesn't serve your customer, it's not meaningful. So when we think about it from a simple definition, we want to go find new things that we can do that serve our organization that's valuable to us and to our customer. If we can focus on a simple definition, we can make it real.
It's interesting that you mentioned that because there are those variables about your organization and the customers, and then it's tying into the mission statement, and hopefully both of those variables are in the mission statement as well. But if you focus on treating that customer well and making that customer experience and serving and giving value there, then it's going to benefit the organization also. But I think that there's a kind of an interest. Have you ever read the book Giftology by John Ruhlin?
No, I haven't.
Really super good book. You can pick that up on Amazon easily. It's a quick read, but the concept is how to use gifting as a strategic initiative for any organization. And one of the things when I interviewed him on my podcast here, he made something really an interesting correlation. We feel like if we want to do this gifting initiative, and that could be an innovative way to do business or to do business development, he goes, if we just focused on our customers, now here's all of our employees going, wow, we're focusing externally, but they're treating us like dirt. So he says, I start with gifting and treating my internal employees like royalty so that they feel compelled to treat our external customers the same exact way. So, his example was, we take and we give, a year's worth of maid cleaning service to our employees, and that's a great way they can come home from a long, hard day and feel like, wow, that was a great gift from the boss. So what I would like to ask with that thought in mind, if someone is going to read your book and take some points and implement them, what could they expect as like a tangible, what's an example of an innovative initiative, and what could they expect as an outcome for that, and I guess both internally and externally?
Well, first of all, you're the author of the other book brings some very important points, and I talk about that in What Customers Crave, is that we found that there is a direct corollary between Glassdoor ratings. In other words, how happy customers, our internal stakeholders are, in contrast to how good they deliver value. And In-N-Out Burger is a great example. I think Dutch Brothers Coffee is another great example of organizations that have committed to their employees. They have happy employees, and those happy employees are willing to really deploy on the strategy and the promise of customer experience. From a practical perspective, when you think about innovation today, I think the biggest misconception is that these new values that people are delivering are going to be always a bright, shiny object. But the way in which people get deliverables on innovation is using that definition. Can we find new ways to deliver, better ways in which we are more lean, the ways in which we use our resources and financial stewardship? Are there new innovations that we can deploy in the way in which we distribute our product to the market? A good example of this kind of innovation would be Amazon. Amazon invented the idea of buying online in a very institutional way. 18 years ago, people were saying nobody in their right mind is ever going to put their credit card on the internet, right? Yeah. And we know how that turned out. But what they realized is they needed to alleviate friction and alleviate risk. So they made it really, really simple. A recent example of that is, in the old days, you used to have to go into the Amazon app, and then you would see something you wanted, and then you would have to add it to your shopping cart. And then when it was time to make a purchase, you'd have to go into your shopping cart, and then you would make the purchase. Well, just those finger movements, literally just a few finger movements, was more friction than their customers wanted. It's hard to believe that could be something that caused pushback. So Amazon created Buy Now. In other words, the buy with one click button, and it was a phenomenal success because it alleviated a millisecond of friction. Now, you wouldn't see that as an innovation because it seems almost, it seems like just a few finger movements, but the impact to Amazon and their customer was titanic. So when we think about things like Uber, everybody talks about Uber as a case example, but I think they're missing the point. Uber invented moments of movement. They improved the moments of getting from one place to the other by eliminating risk through a rating system and being able to call car service with a few touches of your fingers. It was that the car wasn't reinvented. The way in which we made the moments of movement was different. Amazon reinvented moments of merchandise. Apple retailers invented the moments of the machine. One of the things that they do is they ask you a few probative questions to find out who you are, and then they deliver a customized in-store experience based on your personification. You think about Netflix. Netflix reinvented moments of movies. Spotify reinvented moments of music. So it's really today the greatest opportunities in a practical way to take innovation is to find ways to invent ways that improve value, improve transparency, improve relevancy, and to significantly reduce friction. Those are the low-hanging fruits for innovation today, I think.
And if we took that last phrase that you just said and had a meeting with the top CEOs of the top companies out there and said, who's all in, every hand would go up. But but why isn't everyone doing it? What's the holdback? What's the friction there?
That's a really great question, and the fact of the matter is that the average person doesn't really understand innovation because the term has become a unicorn. So when organizations, the things that I find and my consulting firm has turned into an innovation hazmat team, we probably mop up after more failed innovation initiatives than anybody. Now, what we found is that there never really was a commitment to the initiative. And sadly, a lot of organizations do commit to it, and it fails because it was incomplete. And innovation is an ecosystem that if it's not complete, it's going to fail. It's a team, people-powered process that has to be done correctly. And I think that's the main reason why the best organizations are not successfully deploying innovation and ultimately dying. I mean, I could have reinvented Sears if they would have given me a shot at it 10 years ago. Today, I would like the opportunity to reinvent Best Buy. They're probably not going to give me that opportunity, so I'm not so sure Best Buy makes it, right? Some of the stuff that, Toys R Us, they didn't get destroyed because of Amazon and people buying toys online, contrary to what everybody's saying. They were destroyed because the experience was horrible. The stores were, they hired people that seemed to hate employees or hate customers. Their toys were thrown in the aisles. The products were poorly merchandised. And yet they were ubiquitous. They had great prices and great selections. Their experience innovation was wrong, and because of that, they failed. And it's fixable, but you have to commit to it, and most organizations are not willing to do that.
Boy, we could launch off for about 4 hours on that one phrase. Reminds me of how many diet and exercise programs are out there right now? You can't count them. But at the bottom line, everybody knows what they need to do to get fit and lose weight or gain weight, whatever you're trying to do. And it's monitor your nutrition, don't eat as much, work out, drink some, have self-control, and do it consistently. It's these basic things, but people don't do it. So same as what you're saying here is there's some basic tenets of innovation, and you got to be all in. And you got to be all in with everybody on the team all in, as well as the dedication and commitment to continue to be all in, because it's not just the thing we do this quarter and now we're moving on. Okay, we handled innovation, now what?
Right. I think it was Einstein that said knowledge is not a cure, right? But if you take a look at exercise and fitness programs, there are things that can help deal with the customization. This is the same exact thing we deal with in innovation. You have to make the diet customized to the company, right? You have to develop the engagement and the support systems and the things that statistically increase compliancy to a weight loss and fitness regimen. The exact same principles are in play with innovation because, at the end of the day, we don't lose money or we don't lose weight by the diets themselves. We lose weight with the commitment to the discipline of what is required. And the same, of course, is true with innovation. Yeah,
love it. That's awesome. Yeah, makes total sense. So, hey, let's wrap up with this. What is the one message you'd like to leave the listeners with that they could apply now and have real and lasting impact regarding innovation on their organization?
I would say that, what the average organization needs to realize is that innovation is an absolute mandate today. The marketplace is not the same, yet we try to commit to sameness, to legacy. And since the marketplace is not the same and changing at a breakneck rate, we have to be willing to change, and by that I mean get better. So I think the one message is that innovation today, whether you're a muffler shop or a multinational corporation, innovation is a mandate. The good news is that successfully deploying an innovation is possible if you follow a proven system.
Yep. Yeah. And sometimes that proven system needs to be, let's think of it as tooled, created, fine-tuned, held accountable by someone that's external to your organization, because sometimes you can't see the forest for the trees. So bringing in someone like yourself to see some of these opportunities, help guide the process, and keep accountable, I think is really, really important. So let's wrap up with this, Nick. What is the best way people can reach out, connect with you, buy one of your books, and maybe listen to some keynotes and things like that?
Sure. Well, for my speaking business is simply nickwebb.com with 2 B's. For those organizations that are looking for some help to get this started, go LeaderLogic.com. It's a new website that I think actually launches today or tomorrow. So those are the 2 best ways to reach me, and I appreciate the opportunity to be on your program.
Excellent. Well, Nick, thanks so much for coming on. I really appreciate your time.
You bet. Thank you.
You've been listening to Influential Entrepreneurs with Mike Saunders. To learn more about the resources mentioned on today's show or listen to past episodes, visit www.influentialentrepreneursradio.com.